Welcome to Crafty Beach. This is Julie. We have some fun Olympics projects for you today, but first, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, the bell if you'd like to be notified, and a thumbs up is always appreciated. Okay, today I wanted to do some Olympics-inspired home decor. We are really excited about the Olympics starting this week, and so I thought I would come up with some fun ideas to decorate your home. Okay, so I found these at the Dollar Tree, of course, and they are like a horseshoe ring toss game they have right now with like their kids' summer toys. And I thought these rings were perfect for Olympic rings. Now, I did have to buy 2 packages because they only had 4 of the rings, and I need 5 for the Olympics. So the red and blue, luckily, are already the right color, so I don't have to do anything to those, so that's easy. The next ring that I need to do is yellow. I'm going to use chalk paint by Waverly again, and the color on the yellow one is maize. Now, the yellow was a little harder to get good coverage over the blue ring, but just several coats will definitely get it done. Of course, I had to do some research to find out why the rings are this color, and I thought it was really interesting. The colors are red, blue, yellow, green, black, and white, and those represent all of the colors on all of the flags of all the countries that participate in the Olympics. So I thought that was a fun fact. You don't really think about the white because that's like the background behind the Olympic rings, but so that's one of the colors too. So we have a red and blue, and then we have our green, which was malachite, our yellow, which was maize, and the final color is black. So I am using chalk paint again. The color on this one is ink, and I am painting that ring as well. And this project was so simple, and I love how it turned out. I was thinking you could do this project for a wall hanging, which is how I'm using it, or you could also use it for a door hanging or a wreath for your house. And you will see this is only part of the Olympics. This is going to be a Team USA one, and so we have our rings. Red, blue, green, yellow, and black. And they do go in a specific order. And this is going to be the rest of the sign. I'm going to use one of these, just a sign from the Dollar Tree. Doesn't matter which one. This one has a little bump out piece that I'm just removing. Unfortunately, it's taken like a lot of the sign with it, but that's okay. I'm going to work on the back anyway. So I want to hang my sign horizontally, so I won't be using that hanger on the top. And I did think about using some of those wooden pieces over on the left, but I ended up not using those. So I am just taking off the string from my sign. It can be any sign you got. And if you check, a lot of the Dollar Trees still have the 4th of July stuff, so perfect for Team USA. So I picked up these letters from the Dollar Tree for USA. And of course, I don't like the glitter and stuff, but I are going to remake those. And I don't like my backs to be all gnarly like this, so I'm just going to use some of this super cheap contact paper from the Dollar Tree and cutting the piece just a little bit shorter than the back of my sign. And that just makes me feel better about my finished piece without having all that crazy stuff going on in the background. And this piece wants to fight me a little bit, but I do get it on there finally. Now that's going to be the back of our Team USA sign. So I'm going to work on the back, which is a great surface to work with. But first, I just have to use some of the spackle from the Dollar Tree to patch those little tiny holes where the hanger was. And I am using chalk paint for this sign. I'm using ivory. This is one of my favorite colors from Waverly. It goes really good with my beach theme in my house, and it's a nice soft color of white. Now the back of these signs are pretty receptive to paint, especially chalk paint, and so you can get pretty good coverage with one coat. And I'm just going over with my dryer. This thing speeds up my process so much. I just got it on Amazon. I can post a link below. And here is a second coat because I really want good coverage on this sign. Now, the Dollar Tree signs are a little thin, and it did want to bow on me a little bit, but I was able to kind of just bend it to get it where I want. Okay, here's our USA letters. I'm just ripping them off the ribbon they came on. And what a great source for $1 for these USA letters. Now, the U and the A, I can just flip over and use the back. The S, not so lucky. I actually have to try to use the front, and it's covered in glitter. So I'm just using my little spatula tool from the Dollar Tree, and I am trying to get that paper off the front. It might have worked better if I would have used the heat gun, but it was working slowly but surely, so it's going to be distressed, so it's not going to have to be a perfectly flat surface, but I am going to try to do my best with like a little sanding block here from the Dollar Tree and try to get the rest of that paper off of my S. Now, the A is technically, I guess, backwards, but you can't really tell. The U is the same both ways. And these were kind of not cut well. They were kind of funky looking on the back, very fuzzy. So I'm using that same sanding block to smooth up the edges of my letters so they will look crisp on my Team USA sign. And just cleaning up all that mess there with my awesome little ladybug vacuum. And I am using the Waverly chalk paint in Crimson to paint USA. A lot of the times I see Team USA, I see the red USA letters above the Olympic rings on a white background. And so that is my inspiration for this Team USA sign. So I gave one good coat of the Crimson chalk paint on all 3 of my letters and giving that a quick dry. I was kind of impressed with how well the S did take the paint, considering it was kind of the inside of the board, but it did really well. So I'm just going over with another coat to make that red nice and bright, and I really like how those letters turned out. And I am just giving it a quick dry, and you know your girl has to distress it because everything is Coastal Farmhouse in my house. So I'm just using some of this Antique Wax by Waverly and my little chunky brush from the Dollar Tree. You get 3 in a package. And I go on the edges first and then kind of go all over. Then I just follow that up with a baby wipe and wipe off any excess of the Antique Wax. And it gives me a white sign, but a nice weathered white sign that looks very, very farmhouse. And if you get a little too much, you can go back over with your original ivory color and kind of balance that out and get it exactly how you like it. Okay, so since I distressed that, I decided to go ahead and distress USA too. So again, a chunky brush from the Dollar Tree and some ivory chalk paint. And kind of going all over. This one I'm kind of going up and down instead of side to side, so it's going to give a little bit more variety to the sign. And I went over that with a baby wipe and a paper towel just to get that good and going. Now the back of my sign is again a neat hanger. So I'm just going to use some twine from the Dollar Tree. And I like to use a ruler to kind of see where I'm going to be. I usually do 2 and 10 for my hangers. And then I just have some extra burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree that I'm going to use to help me glue this on. So I'm just using hot glue and the twine. And then I'm hot gluing just any kind of ribbon or fabric over the twine just to help reinforce that hanger and make it a little bit stronger. Okay, so that is good to go. I like to do the hanger now so I don't mess up the sign later by adding it at the end. And so, again, I'm just using my ruler to kind of figure out where the center is. And first, I'll do the S first, since it should be kind of in the center. And I am just kind of eyeballing that and attaching that with hot glue with my little cordless hot glue gun there. And U is next. And finally, A. Now, it's not super centered, but, you know, it's good enough. So I like how that turned out. USA. Now I want to attach the Olympic rings to hang underneath of the Team USA sign. And so I am just going to use some of that twine and I am going to tie them together. Now, I thought about interlocking the Olympic rings like they are by cutting it, but I wanted it to lay flat, and I thought that that was just going to be way more complicated than I was going to want to deal with. So I tie the top 3 together, and then tie the bottom 2 together, and then I start tying the top to the bottom, anywhere that you're going to have a joint. And I'm kind of doing this upside down. I do have it in the right order for the colors, but I wanted the knots of the twine to be on the back of the piece. And I am cutting all of those pieces. And there we go. We have Olympic rings, blue, black, red, yellow, green. And I want to figure out a way to attach that to that sign. And I thought, twine to the rescue. So I'm just going to use some more of that ribbon and some twine just to tie the rings to the bottom of the sign. Easy peasy. So I do one on the red and I do one here on the blue. And I'm just going to use the same technique as I did with the hanger. I am just going to glue that twine onto the back of my sign and then glue a piece of fabric or ribbon over the twine just to help reinforce it. Now, I started out just doing the red and the blue, and then I do realize that it really needed all 3 of the rings tied to it because it did not really hang right. You can see how the black goes down and it's like kind of messes up like the whole shape. So I don't know what happened there. I think it just fell off, that piece. So I'm just repairing that. And then I do go in and tie the black ring up too in the same way that I did with the red and the blue, just by tying that off with twine, cutting off a little piece of fabric and hot gluing the twine to the back of the sign and then hot gluing some fabric on the back. Now you could use staples, but these Dollar Tree signs are really thin. I didn't want the staples to go all the way through. Now I thought it needed something extra. So I'm not fantastic at making bows, but I thought I could do maybe a simple X bow. I thought this burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree was perfect because it has the red dots on it. And the Olympics are in Tokyo, so the Japanese flag has a red dot on it, so I thought that was perfect. But I also want this to be Team USA. So I just have some red, white, and blue ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and I am just cutting off 2 pieces of each and just laying them in an X pattern just to do, I think this is called an X bow. And I kind of dovetailed the burlap, but these I'm just kind of cutting it at a diagonal just to make it easier. And I'm just going to use twine to tie that off. But then I decided I really want that burlap to be more visible, so I actually move that and make that one on top. And I just simply tie that with some twine. And we have a super easy bow. And it was just what I needed just to finish off the top and make the Team USA sign just a little bit more decorative. So I'm just tying that to the twine that I used for the hanger. Easy peasy. I don't have to use any glue or anything. Just tying that on and just over on one side. Then I decide that I think those are a little too long, so I do trim the burlap ones just a little shorter, and I dovetail those so that you can see the red, white, and blue for Team USA peeking out from behind, and that is all there is to it. I'm just trimming some up. I used some scissors that I probably shouldn't have used, and they were a little frayed, so just going over my ribbon here with my good fabric scissors. And we are done. Okay, up next, I wanted to make an Olympic torch. I thought this would be fun. I found this vase at the Dollar Tree yesterday, and I thought upside down, it would be the perfect shape for a Olympic torch. Now, I also found this gold gift bag at the Dollar Tree. I thought that reminded me of a torch, the outside being gold. And so I picked that up. And then I found this flame print online and printed it out on cardstock. I will try to include a link to that if you'd like to print that as well. Now, on the gold gift bag, it's one of the large ones. I'm just cutting off the top and the bottom, and it's this really shiny, bright gold. And I was thinking that I can just cover the vase with that to give us an Olympic torch. So I'm just cutting off top, the bottom, and both sides, and it leaves me with 2 pieces of the gold. I do kind of want it to be a thick piece, so I am going to attempt to glue the 2 insides of the bag together to give me a nice 2-sided piece of gold. Now, I used the spray adhesive from the Dollar Tree, and I thought this would work for this project, but as you can see, it worked in the middle, but it was kind of struggle bus here. It didn't really like this material. So I do go find my glue stick, and that worked way better. And I'm just using a paper towel to try to smooth that down, trying to get a smooth, like foil-like substance to use to cover my Olympic torch. So once I get the sides all glue sticked down, then I have this nice 2-sided piece of gold. I thought maybe you might be able to see the inside of the torch as well, which is one reason why I wanted to do it 2-sided too, but you end up not being able to see it, but that's okay. So I am just cutting off the edges where it is kind of not matched up perfectly to give me this pretty piece of gold foil for torch. And I'm thinking I can just wrap it around the vase. So I want to turn the vase upside down. That gives me the nice torch shape. And I'm thinking I can just wrap it around like that. So I'm just going to use hot glue all the way down the vase, attach the gold foil bag, and start rolling that around. I don't want it hanging off the bottom, so I do trim it because, you know, it is kind of a round, weird shape. And I go around until I get all the way around, and then I trim that piece off. And it was coming apart a little bit there, so I used a glue stick and then hot glue along the edge. And we have a torch. Isn't that easy? So I'm just trimming up anywhere that you see any excess white peeking out. And of course the top is not like perfectly round. And so I just go in and trim that too. But first I'm making sure I have everything glued down really well, and then trim off that little piece at the top. And we have the base of our Olympic torch. Now I found this flame pattern online. I thought about having the cricket cut it out in red, orange, and yellow. And I was making an SVG, and then I was like, oh Lord, by the time I get all this done, then I could have just cut it out. So I just printed it out on cardstock and am using the old manual way scissors to cut out these flames. I had a hard time finding a fire print, so I will try to include this fire print because I need something that I can roll that's going to kind of give me a 3D version of a fire to come out of the top of our Olympic torch. So it is a little intricate here in cutting out all those flames. And there were extra pieces that weren't attached to the flames, and I just cut those off. No big deal. So there's our fire for our torch. And I thought it was really plain because it was cardstock and it was really flat. So I'm just using some gloss Mod Podge to try to shine this paper up, just to make it look shinier and prettier to go with that pretty gold shiny Olympic torch. And then once I get a good coating of the gloss Mod Podge on there, I'm just giving it a dry with my heat gun. And that actually worked really well. It sealed the paper. You can see how shiny it made it. and it just made it look a little bit more professional. And I just want to put it inside my torch like this to give me the appearance of flame. So I'm just going to use hot glue bead along the bottom and glue that into the rim of my Olympic torch, just like that. Now, once I get it in there, I'm like, you know, this is really hollow. I need more. So I went and got a piece of red and a piece of yellow tissue paper from a multi-pack I picked up at the Dollar Tree, and I folded it in half, and then I just kind of folded it like an accordion, and I am just cutting out some super random shapes that kind of remind me of flames. Definitely nothing fancy. And that gave me some red flames. I wish I'd had orange, but I did not have orange in that multi-pack. But I did have red and yellow. And then I'm just cutting that down the seam that will give me 2 pieces of the red flames. Now I'm going to do the same exact thing with the yellow. I fold it in half again, and then kind of fold it out and out like an accordion and cut out some kind of random flames shapes. Kind of look like waves. And then cut the bottom off, and that will give me 2 pieces of the yellow. So I alternate them red, yellow. I lay them on top of each other, and then I just roll them up like I think that they would fit inside of my Olympic torch. And I just stuff them in there. I don't glue them or anything. I just stuff it in there. Now, I want my torch to light up, of course, extra. So I'm just using one of these little Dollar Tree, I think, flashlights, and putting that in the bottom of my vase to make my torch light up. Isn't that a fun idea? Now, the red tissue paper makes it kind of have a red glow. If I would have used all yellow, it might have been a little bit brighter. But I thought that was cool. Now, I didn't go around my lip with the paper, and so I cut off a tiny piece of a plunger handle from the Dollar Tree to make my flashlight go further up the vase, but I don't know if it really made a difference, just to try to make it a little brighter. But you could see some light coming through on the bottom, and so I'm just using a piece of the top of that bag just to cover up the base because I don't want light escaping from the bottom. I want it to glow on the top. And this looked really cool, lit up last night on my entryway table, and I think it is a fun decoration for the Olympics. Okay, so these are those green wreaths that you pick up at the Dollar Tree. I picked up 5 for the 5 Olympic rings, and I'm going to kind of do the same thing that I did with the little ring toss game. But this is going to be like a big hanging for my entryway. And so I'm just going to paint them. So this first one is the Crimson Chalk Paint by Waverly. And since it is kind of a 3D piece, you do have to paint the front and the back because you're going to be able to see the sides. And the red went on really well. It gave me really good coverage, making sure that I get it good and dry with my dryer so that I can flip it over and paint the other side. I love how this turned out. Again, I'm not going to interlink the rings. I'm just going to tie them together, and that makes the project a little bit easier. And there is our crimson color. And I've been collecting these rings with the idea of Olympic rings, and so I'm really glad I was able to get this project done and just in time for the Olympics. So the next one I'm going to do is the black ring. And so this color is that ink paint. I did not have all of the colors that I needed for the Olympic ring. So when I was at Walmart, I just picked up some of the small sizes of these chalk paints so that I could do all of the colors. And so I got a small container of this ink. And I might go back and get a bigger one because I really like the color of that. It's really nice. So I got the one side covered and dried, and I am just using foam brush that I picked up at the Dollar Tree and giving that a good coating. And the ink, or the black color, went on really well over the green ring as well. And just making sure that I have it good and covered and no little pieces of green foam sticking through. Up next is the yellow, which is the color I used was maize. And this one was definitely more challenging. I think because I'm trying to cover the green ring with the lighter color of yellow, it kind of gave me like a yellow-green color, and I didn't really want that. So this one did require much more coats than the other rings did, for sure. And I'm just going over and over until I get all of that green covered and giving that a good dry. I was pleasantly surprised with how well these green foam wreaths did paint. I wasn't sure. They looked sealed well, so I thought they would take paint, but I was really impressed with how well they did. I finally got good coverage on the yellow ring. So up next is going to be the green ring, and I'm using the color, I keep forgetting what it's called, malachite, in the chalk paint. And I just picked up a tiny one of those at Walmart as well, because that's not a color that I use often. And this one was super easy, doing green over green. And these colors probably aren't exactly the right colors, but they are close enough in my book. So once I get that on there, I'm going to go in and paint the other side as well. And we have our green ring. And now it's time to put this stuff together. And I just realized that I must have lost the footage of the blue ring. Basically the same thing that I did on the other four. But I used the color Ocean chalk paint by Waverly. And so this is my first attempt at putting my Olympic rings together. I'm just using zip ties, some fairly large ones, and zip tying them together. So I'm getting my colors like all in the right pattern. I attached the top row and I attached the second row with zip ties and just cutting off the excess. And I say first attempt because this is not what I end up doing. Now, it probably would have been a lot stronger if I would have left it like this than what I ended up doing, but whatever you can do to try to attach them together. I didn't think I could use hot glue because I thought the foam would melt, so I just kind of did all the joints. Then I decided, oh, that's too many, and then maybe this looks better, but then I hated them, so I'm going over it with the same colors that I used on the rings to try to paint the zip ties to make it blend in. And honestly, I could have left it at this. It looked fairly good, but I was like, no, this doesn't go with my decor. So I'm using twine to tie them together. Now, this definitely is not as sturdy. I think I would recommend the zip tie way, but I don't know. I just wasn't totally satisfied with it. And so I just kept trying new ways. So I'm using the twine to tie it off on all the different sides. And then I decide that's too much twine. I do have to go back and replace those because those twine pieces were actually needed. And here is some of that burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree. And I thought I would just make a simple hanger. And I really like this because it reminds me of the Japanese flag, who is hosting our summer 2020 Olympics, actually in 2021, unfortunately. And I am just hot gluing the ends of that ribbon together to make a very simple hanger for our Olympic rings. And here is where I am reattaching those green to black and yellow to black. And the order of the colors is important. I do have those in the right order. And I am just tying those back on. And there we go. Now, that thing was a challenge to hang. I will give advice if you do it like that. Now, I just have my Cricut mat, some waxed paper to protect my Cricut mat, and I have some of this polyester fabric, craft fabric from the Dollar Tree. I'm just giving it a quick iron with my, why can't I remember what that thing is called? My Easy Press. And I'm going to do sublimation. Now, I have a sublimation printer. If you don't, it's okay. You could always do this on cardstock or paper and kind of get the same effect. And I got a Team USA logo, the Tokyo Olympics logo, and American flag logos. And I'm just going to make a little pennant banner with sublimation. Now, I will try to include a link to this as well as a printable if you want to print it for sublimation, or if you want to print it on paper or cardstock or whatever you want to use for your little pennant banner. And I had to cut it apart into pieces because my Easy Press 2 is not that large, and I don't want to mess up the images in between pressing. And so I just covered that with a piece of copy paper and my Easy Press at 400 degrees for 1 minute. And I will have sublimated Team USA banners. And I think that is the current logo. That's what I found online for the Team USA. And I'm trying to get these all to fit across my fabric. I kind of have it on the crease of the fabric because I kind of want to make these 2-ply pennant banners. And so again, 400 for 1 minute, and I have my Tokyo 2020 flag, and then I have 2 of the USA flags. And this tape is just heat tape that you can use for sublimation. I get this on Amazon. I can post a link for that below. And I love the size of this new Cricut mat I have. It's nice and big and allows me to work on bigger projects. And 400 for 1 minute, and we have 2 American flags. Isn't sublimation fun? Oh, I absolutely love it, and I'm always looking for a way to sneak it in. So here is that crease that I was talking about, and I'm just going to kind of iron that back in just because the fabric is a little thin, and I thought if I did it 2-ply, it might be a little thicker and nicer looking. And so I'm just using my fabric scissors and cutting out our designs. So we have 2 of the Team USA, 2 of the American flag, and 1 of the Tokyo 2020. I did print 2 just because I had room on my paper, and who knows, I might use that for another project. And I am just kind of using my fabric scissors to try to cut that polyester so that I don't get like any fraying. I kind of did the border just so I would know where to cut, and I made it the same size as the American flags that I did. And I thought I would do it like a 5 pennant banner with Tokyo 2020 in the middle, and then Team USA and the flags on the sides. So I am getting those all cut out. I want to make sure that the backs don't show a little bit of white there on the side. And just trimming up our American flag. And here is the last piece. And again, you don't have to have sublimation for this, but I have it, so why not use it, right? Okay, so now it's going to be as simply as stringing them on twine. Since I made them all little flaps, I'm just going to open them up, put my twine there, and then just hot glue the 2 sides together, not really at the top. That way that I can slide the little pennant back and forth to get it exactly where I want it when I hang it. And so I'm going to do Tokyo 2020 in the middle, then an American flag next to it by just hot gluing those 2 flaps together, trimming up any excess that I see, and then I'll do a Team USA over here, 2 beads of hot glue, and just gluing that on. Again, avoiding the top. Then to make this symmetrical, I am doing an American flag on this side of the Tokyo 2020 and hot gluing that together. And one last piece, we have our other Team USA flag. And I thought about doing international flags, but I only wanted Team USA. So here is the final reveal. Here is our Team USA sign with our Olympic rings. And I think this turned out really cute, very farmhouse, very patriotic for the Olympics. What do you think about this piece? And here is our Olympic torch that actually lights up, of course, because I'm extra, so of course it lights up, right? So this is what it looks like during the day, and this is what it looks like at dark. It's all red and glows. Super cool. I love it. And here is our large wall hanging with our Olympic rings. And our pennant banner at the top. Now, the Olympic rings, to get that to hang right, I had to make sure the black was level against the wall, and then the yellow and green were level against the wall, and then kind of balance the red and the blue up on either side to get it to lay flat. That's why I think the zip ties would have been more secure, but it is what it is. I went with the twine. So how did you like my Olympics projects? I think they turned out super fun. And if you liked this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't. Until next time, bye.